I'm Marin, and this is Post-its and Pens. Hello and welcome to or welcome back to my channel. My name is Marin, and here you will find a little beauty, a little books, and a little teaching content. So if that sounds like something you might enjoy, I would love for you to subscribe and stick around and join me in my little corner of YouTube. Today's video is going to be a very quick video because I am going to take you through 4 options for my Pan That Palette project for 2023. So let's go ahead and get into the video. Now, this year in 2022, I have been doing an eyeshadow roulette project where for most of the months until November, I had picked 5 random eyeshadow shades and I worked on using those shades 5 times each, and I was like tracking my progress. This month in November, I actually picked 5 different palettes because I am wanting to do a Pan That Palette project for next year. Now, when I say pan that palette, I don't mean finishing the palette all the way up. I know that some people do that. They want to finish the palette up completely. My Pan That Palette is just going to be to hit pan in all of the shades in the palette. So I've got some options right here. I'm going to go ahead and tip you down and kind of take you through the palette so you can see where I'm at in terms of progress, have a look at the shades, that kind of thing. But before I do, I'm gonna go ahead and just walk you through the ones I've chosen. So I have picked the Urban Decay Naked 3 palette. I also have the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. And then I have the Urban Decay Wild Greens palette. And finally, the Urban Decay Naked Ultraviolet palette. So those are the 4 palettes that I am thinking about using for the project next year. Some of them have some good use. Some of them are fairly new. So let's go ahead and tip on down so you can get a good look at each of them. So I flipped you down so that you can kind of get a good look at the palettes. As I mentioned, I have 4 choices that I'm thinking of for my Pan That Palette next year. I'm gonna start with the 2 that I think would be the easiest. This one is my oldest palette. This is the Urban Decay Naked 3. And as you can see, I already have pan in one of the shades, and I have some nice use in a lot of the other ones except for these 2 down here. So I'm thinking this would be probably the easiest one to pan because this one's technically already panned and I would just need to hit pan in these. So this is option number 1 that I'm thinking of. And again, this is the oldest palette I've had, so this might be the best choice. The other one that I've had a really long time is this Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. As you can see, I do have pan in this shade right here, which is Marzipan. This is actually my favorite shade in the palette. This one would be a little bit trickier because it's got these really large pans, and then there's a couple shades, this Candied Violet and this Triple Fudge, that I don't actually like at all. So those would be tricky to pan, but this is another one that I've had a long time, and it's probably time to attempt to get it out of my collection. So this is the second option that would probably make the most sense. And then we will chat about 2 more Urban Decay palettes, neither of which I've used very much at all. So we'll start looking at the Wild Greens palette. This one I have used a bit. It's been in a few Eyeshadow Roulette picks for the month. You can see I like the color Fuzz. I've got a nice dent in that one, and I've got some use in Twist down here and also High Vibe. And then Super Green I also have used a bit. This one will be trickier because it's almost brand new, but this is definitely an option that I could see using for Pan That Palette because I do think the shades would work for all 4 seasons. So that is the 3rd option that I've got. And then the final one would probably be the trickiest one, but maybe the most satisfying if I managed it, and that is the Urban Decay Naked Ultraviolet palette. And this one is their kind of purple palette. As you can see, I have used this. I especially like this shade right here, Lucid. That's probably my favorite in the whole palette. I use this light purple shade Optimized quite a bit too. So I'm not sure if you can see any use. I have used it, as I said, a decent amount of times, but this is essentially brand new as well. So this would also be one that's kind of tricky to pan. And I'm not sure if I'm ready for that yet, especially because these purples down here could be difficult because I don't use purple all that often, but I could probably mix and match. So I do like these neutral shades down here, although they're a little bit more warmer toned than I typically go for. I particularly like the Naked 3 because it has kind of some cooler tones, which are kind of more my speed. So looking at the palettes that I'm thinking of, I'm definitely thinking this one or the Too Faced Chocolate Bar would be the best options. But as I said, I have not quite made up my mind because this would come with its own difficulties. This one right here. This one is a very much everyday palette for me, although this one has some shades that I would use as well. I particularly like Salted Caramel, Marzipan. I use white chocolate a lot under my brow. I have used this Champagne Truffle quite a bit, but you can see some of the shades have barely been touched, and I have had this a very long time. So those are the options that I am thinking about. 3 Urban Decay palettes and 1 Too Faced palette. So yeah, that's kind of where I am, y'all. If you have an idea, go ahead and leave it down below. If you've panned any of these, let me know that as well. I definitely think the Naked 3 would be the easiest, but this one would also potentially be quite fun. So that's where I'm at. Okay, so there's a look at them. Those are the 4 palettes, the usage that I've gotten in each of them. Some of that is minuscule, which would make it more of a challenge to do a Pan That palette with those. But I would say the top contenders are probably these 2, as I'd mentioned, Wild Greens and then Naked 3. This one would be the easiest. This one would be more challenging. So we'll see how I'm feeling when it comes time to actually make the choice. But if you have done a Pan That palette and you had these 4 as your choice, which one would you pick? I'm just curious. Go ahead and leave it down below in the comments. I would love to see your opinion. But yeah, that's this very, very quick video, this very quick look at my 4 options for Pan That palette. I'm excited to give it a go for 2023. I've never tried anything like this. I am still going to be doing a Project Pan, but I'm going to be doing that a little bit differently as well for next year. So stay tuned. I will talk about that later on towards the end of the year. But yes, that's that. Pan That palette choices for 2023. We'll see which one I pick. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel if you would like to see more from me. And I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.